I am here. I am awake. I am alert. I am open. Yes, good to be with y'all. I hope you can join me in that. Being fully here. Sometimes I look out at people and I wonder where they're at, where their consciousness is. So I want to welcome you into this space. I invite you to join me in being fully here, fully present. So good news, in 1 week, less than a week, 5 days, we'll be starting our March retreat. I hope you can all join. And the title of the retreat is Facing Fear. Facing Fear. How to live in a fearless way on the spiritual path. And this is a great question for any human being. It's, what do I do with this thing called fear, this experience of fear? How shall I relate to fear? Now, most people never ask that question, how shall I relate to fear? They hear the voice of fear within their body, which is basically all your nerves just, firing all of a sudden. And we tense and we grip and we either hide, we run, we freeze. Occasionally, we fight. It's more rare on the spiritual path that we see people who actually fight outwardly. But what most of us do, it's a bizarre thing, is we fight inwardly. And we fight inwardly with something that's usually no longer present. No longer present. Someone may have said something mean to us, it may have frightened us. And then we get in our car, we go home. Basically, we get in our head. And we fight with them. An imagined battle that never takes place. It takes place in fantasy land. And so, many of us, we lose sleep at night over fear. We lose many, many hours of our life due to fear. And so it's important to really be awake and conscious and say, well, what's going on here? How shall I respond to this? Or should I just react the way my nervous system wants to react? Running, freezing, fighting. I was amazed when I looked at my own life, how much freezing happened within my own consciousness. It was a very bizarre thing for me to notice. And when I look at my human nature, like if we look at it from an Enneagram perspective, this body that I was given, it came with this program, which is in the Enneagram system is called a number 9. And a 9 does a funny thing, is it freezes and then it gets sleepy. It goes off to sleep. And then later, when it starts to wake up, it gets really angry. It gets really angry. Now, 8s in the Enneagram system, well, you say the wrong thing to them, it's like they just start firing profanity at you. They just start attacking you. They will not look at what happened in any way. If the blame is on them, the 8 will just go and attack the other. And it's like, oh my God, if you ever challenge an 8, they appear on the outside to be ridiculously secure and confident that they are not wrong in any way. If you ever spend time with an 8, you see, there's massive wound of insecurity and fear that they puff up around. They puff up around. And so, each of us, we have all kinds of different ways of how we habitually respond to fear. But I encourage you to be conscious and to really look, to be honest about, well, the first thing we could do, like this evening, if we just close our eyes for a moment, we might just look and see, is there anything in my life that I've been fearing? And you might not notice any fear in this moment. I'm going to ask you again, like in what way has fear arose in my consciousness? In the last month, 2 months, 6 months? What fear has come forward? And so I invite you just to pick one. And you see, it's like, what fear has come forward within my psyche, within my human experience? So we're inviting the light of awareness to simply see whatever fear has come forward. Then I'm going to ask you, how have you reacted? How did you react to that fear? Did you fight? Did you run? Did you freeze? Did you do all three? Did you do all three? And so we can smile a little bit, and if we keep breathing, I invite you to stay with your experience. What fear has come forward? And how did you react? How did you react? Now, if we welcome your heart into the room, and a sense of courage, if you look at this experience again, whatever it is or was that came your way, and you asked your heart how it would like to consciously respond to this thing we've called fear. How would my heart respond to this experience of fear? So I want you just to feel into that, to see that. Just noticing how your heart, mixed with a sense of courage, may have responded quite differently than fighting or freezing or running or hiding. So just breathing more deeply. Perhaps setting an intention. If this fear comes or a similar fear comes, perhaps setting an intention of responding with greater clarity or love or strength, nobility, mindfulness, compassion, forgiveness. And so if we sit with the experience a little bit longer, and if you ask, in that moment, when the fear arose, what does my mind need? What did my mind need? What does my mind need to help it so it can more fully, consciously work with fear, face the fear? What does the mental aspect of my being need in relationship to fear. Is one fear or all fear? If you feel more deeply into your emotional nature, so often we have a mental response, an emotional response, a physical response. If we look at our emotional response, what does my human emotional nature need in relationship to the experience of fear? What's my emotional nature need? Often the emotional nature, it fires so quickly. There's no thought there, there's no consciousness there. Just from a place of compassion, we could ask, well, what does my human emotional nature need? How could it grow or develop? What spiritual qualities does it need to connect to in its relationship to fear? Just inviting a greater truth to come online, greater compassion and support. And then in the physical arena, just with our physical reactivity in relationship to fear, we could ask, well, what does my body need? What does my body need in relationship to fear? How could I support my body, support my nervous system? So it's not so frightened, so quick to be frightened, so quick to fight, to run. Some of us have a nervous system that just runs like a scaredy cat. You know, it's like, what does that nervous system need? And it's funny too, because like sometimes it's our politics that is challenged, and we go into a primal fear response. So what challenges our politics or our ideas about COVID, or ideas about religion or gender, all these things that people argue about on Twitter. Our opinions about Ukraine or Russia. Someone challenges our sense of self, makes it a little more personal. Does my mind need? Does my emotional nature need? Does my physical nervous system need? So it can respond to fear. A stronger, healthier, more sane way. More sane way. And again, just hearing the truth as it's arising within your consciousness, and setting an intention to invite this truth to become more manifest. Become more manifest, to become realized, to become known. And so bringing a conscious awareness, with love, with strength, with compassion, with great courage to our relationship with fear. And so you can open your eyes if you haven't already. And so this coming Friday, retreat will have a focus on fear, but just like with any retreat with me, it's probably going to be a lot of light, a lot of grace, big transmission. And we tend to be graced by that in this lineage. And there'll be room for questions on everything, meditations, each session. And I'm really feeling called to offer more retreat teachings and to deepen as a Sangha. So I hope you all can rise to the challenge and join, if you can. So I'll be teaching more retreats, and it feels like there's this greater level of divinity that's coming online. And if you feel that your heart's resonating with it, I want you to join me in that. If you don't resonate, well, not sure what you're doing here, but maybe just checking things out. So there's a lot of questions that I was emailed this week, and I'm going to get to those, but I really want to reiterate that if we want to be free, to me, to be awake, to be enlightened, is to be free. And people think of enlightenment as an experience where you just fill with light and you never experience pain again. And pain is a part of life. Difficulty is part of life. Confusion is part of life. Chaos is a part of life. Relationship is a part of life. Being challenged is a part of life. I went out and I can't remember if I told anyone this or not, but maybe I did, but I took the dogs for a walk. This was a couple weeks ago, and they were acting really funny. And then I then I smelled something in the air, a very pungent smell of I'll say this, it was a cat is what I smelled. It wasn't a little kitty cat in my neighborhood. I live right on the edge of the national forest, and that forest goes all the way to Denver. It actually goes beyond that, but it'll go all the way to Canada if you follow it. But I guess it'll go all the way to the North Pole, depending on how far you walk. But and my neighborhood's full of deer. Deer are, have the consciousness is real similar to my dog Doodles. They're so sweet and so tender and so innocent. Sometimes a cat will come down in my neighborhood and feed on one of those deer. One of my neighbors was sitting there, having a little breakfast, and looked out in their backyard and saw a cat ripping apart a deer. You can imagine seeing that in your backyard. Normally what will happen in your nervous system is the hair, literally, on the back of your neck will start to stand up. And so when I was out walking in the street, and my dogs were going a little nutty, I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing? And then, the scent, came to my nose. All of a sudden I felt this sense of awareness come online. It was just like, boom. Just like every cylinder, every cell in my body, all of a sudden was awake, and scanning the environment to see where that cat was. And the thing about cats is They're sneaky. They're good at hiding. And they're like the ultimate predator. And so there's this great connection. It's a tantric connection of fear has the ability, to radically wake us up. And it can wake us up in the way, like if you ever go to a Zen monastery and you have that Zen master walking around with a stick, just whoosh, smacking you on your back, just like boom. It turns everything on. Everything on. Now, this is what fear is meant to do. It's supposed to heighten a sense of awareness. So to turn every cell in the body on, just wake it up immediately, so that we are fully here, fully present, so that we don't get eaten by the 10-foot long kitty cat. 10-foot long kitty cat. Oh, I get eaten. But the majority of us, we don't live on a mountainside. Majority of us, we don't, we'll never see a cat in our life, except for at a zoo. And so we have this mind that's connected to a body, and the body experiences fear. But as humans, we have a mind that gets involved and it tries to think. And so we might have a little moment of someone challenging us. And then we might think about that challenge, like someone disagreed with our politics. We might think about them in that moment and go to war with them for the next 3 days, maybe a whole week. We might spend arguing with someone. And we just lose all this energy again in fantasy land. It takes us, when fear gets into the mind, it takes us away from awareness. It takes us into a fantasy. It leads us into a world of great illusion. We can spend hours and hours and hours of our life again, just lost in some drama that no longer exists. It no longer exists. In our emotional nature, it does the same thing. Like we can have an experience of fear, or an experience perhaps of hurt, or fright. The other day, some guy almost, it's actually some lady almost T-boned me in my car. And I noticed my body got real scared. But then I took some deep breaths. It's like, okay, I didn't die. Like, I just kept driving the car. I was able to smile and relax. And I've worked with people before when they almost got in an accident. They didn't even get in it. And their body stayed tense for weeks. There was a woman who I used to meditate with. She used to come visit my teacher. She got in a car accident 10 years prior in the snow. And so every time it snowed, she said her body just went into this trauma response, this total fear. She couldn't drive. And it's an ordeal if you live here in Colorado. It's like you need to learn how to drive in the snow. You want to be comfortable with it. If you're all comfortable with it, because it snows a lot. It snows a lot. So sometimes our emotional nature just gets stuck in this habit. Our mental mind can get stuck in a habit of arguing or fighting or fearing. Sometimes we're thinking about what someone's thinking about us. That's a form of fear. In our emotional nature, sometimes we experience a collision or some type of danger, some type of trauma. And then we stay stuck in that. Stuck. And so in order to heal our mind and to heal our trauma, we have to do exactly what the mind doesn't want to do. We have to feel what's there, face it, and breathe into it. As we breathe into the thing that hurt us, or that we thought was going to hurt us, and as we breathe into that thing, we begin to liberate it. Begin to liberate it from our consciousness. And so then the spiritual path, if we want to be free, a lot of people think I need to avoid all my fears. That's the game of the ego. If we want to be free, we face all our fears. We face them one by one, bringing them into the light. Into the light. We meet them with love. We meet them with clarity. We meet them with strength and courage. And the strength and courage is basically a willingness to breathe more deeply and allow whatever feeling is here to come, let it burn itself out. Burn itself out. In the vast silence and radiance of our being. It's the courage to have faith in our strength and our Buddha nature. Buddha nature is that which is timeless, which is deathless, which is always here. And so we have faith in our indestructible nature, the thing that's outlived every experience of pain or confusion or happiness or joy or whatever, every experience. We have faith in that which has outlived every experience, instead of having faith in this reptilian response in the mind. And so it's a great question is, what do I have faith in? Do I have faith in the truth of my being? Or do I have faith in my nervous system? And again, in the moment, it can be helpful to have faith in your nervous system. Like when I'm outside and there's a real danger, it's okay to allow my nervous system to have it say, Mr. Holiday, there's a big cat outside among you somewhere. Like that's a good thing to allow that. And then I get to make a choice of how I'm going to respond. So I listen to my nervous system. I hear it, but I don't always follow it. That night, I chose to keep walking. The cat's not going to get me. God's got too much work for me to do. God's not going to have me eaten by a cat. But it probably would have been wise to be like, okay, there's a cat somewhere close. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Now there was an old lady last week in Florida. She was out walking her little dog, and she got eaten up by an 11-foot alligator. And so, so we have a choice. We have a choice. So I assume she didn't see the alligator, or she couldn't run, or that thing was quicker than her. It was quicker than her. And fear is trying to avoid that outcome. It's trying to avoid the getting eaten by the alligator part. And so on the spiritual path, I'm not saying don't listen to fear, don't listen to your nervous system. You listen to it, you consider it. You consider it. And in a life or death situation, hopefully, you just listen to your nervous system, which is, I'm going to run or I'm going to fight. But most of us on the spiritual path, the things that we fear are not life or death. The things we fear are people challenging our sense of self. They're challenging our identity. And they're challenging, our personal space. But not many of us are being attacked or live in a war zone. When that comes, again, it's a great idea to fight or to run. I'm not a big fan of freezing. But again, it's something that I've found in my own consciousness. It's like I can find them all. Fighting, running, freezing. The more aware and awake we are to what's within us, then we get to choose. How shall I respond? How shall I respond? Okay. So, I'm just going to look at the comments here. Lucas writes, I think I haven't fully felt my belly for many years now. Since I've stirred up some old traumas down there, sometimes I can reconnect to it gently. But then again, it all gets tense and angry and numb. Yeah. And Lucas, the tantric way of working with this would be to use anger as a doorway. As a doorway. And so let's talk about this. One of the great things that anger has at its core is a lot of energy, a lot of power. And so it can be helpful, like if we find that, I haven't inhabited my belly. Let's see, I haven't inhabited my hara, my solar plexus, or my pelvis for many years. If we ask, like, what's down there? Well, there's anger down there. Sometimes if you look down, you see there's just numbness there. Numbness is very difficult to work with. And you have to be an incredible will. It would be a really good meditator to work with numbness. But, anger is something that it can get our attention and hold our attention. And the thing with anger, the mistake people make is they get carried away with the thoughts. So if you say, I haven't been in my belly for a long time, but I feel some anger. But you can you can bring your awareness into that anger and be curious about it. And often there'll be a story right on the surface. And if it's new to you, let the story come and hear it. Give it a good listen, or 2 or 3. It'll probably repeat itself again and again. But then I encourage you to look, like, what's at the root of this anger? What's at the root of this anger? Can you feel the sensation of the anger? Like the heat, the fire of it, the intensity of it. And as you do so, you'll get your power back. As your power comes online, your belly is going to start to come online. You're going to ask some deeper questions. Well, what else is here besides anger? Is there sadness here? Is there fear here? Is there heartache here? But again, I'm less interested in the story. Again, you can hear the story, listen to it. But the more fully you're willing to feel whatever's in your belly, the more quickly your belly will wake up. And it's through feeling your pain, your fears, your anger, that trauma will begin to release. And then as you do this tantric work, what you find in your belly will just begin to feel like a big ball of power. It's going to feel like a mountain, or like solid. Might have some heat there, some power. And begin to transform from a center that's full of trauma that we avoid to something that's full of power and light Perhaps nobility and strength and courage. And as that opens up, you may even notice a different type of vastness coming online and freedom. So thank you, Lucas, for sharing. David asks, well, what is a tantric action? So Tantra, Tantra has such a bad name in modern spirituality. People so often equate it with sexual energy. And I almost never speak about Tantra in the form of sexual energy. Tantra is a willingness to take something that's, say, confused within you and work with it, open to it, be with it, experience it, feel it. And as you do so, some heat will come online and that thing will transform. Will transform. And so just like a little moment of Tantra that I described was when I was out walking with the dogs, and when the fear came online, I immediately, I shouldn't say it just immediately transmuted into this sense of just everything being awake, like every cell being awake within my body. The normal fear response would be to run inside, close the door, and be hyperventilating. I can't hyperventilate. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, there's a cat out there. Oh my God, I almost got eaten. And you run off in your head. That's not Tantra. That's being in your ego. That's being in your ego. The Tantra is a willingness to be with something difficult. And as you do so, it transmutes. So it's the energy, the fire of transmutation. And so in this case, the energy of fear transmuted very quickly to an incredible heightened sense of awareness throughout the entirety of my body. Like I had eyes, like all lit up on my whole backside of my being. It was pretty incredible. It's like I could see in every direction when I was out walking in the night. And then there came this fearlessness that came online, and then a little bit of humor, just a little bit of humor in the face of danger. And so that's Tantra. Tantra is the willingness to be something heavy, something intense, and you work with it. You work with it. And Tantra, another beautiful way of asking, like, well, what is Tantra? It's it's composting. It's composting. It's, you find rotten things within yourself, discarded things, confused things, kind of just old, heavy things. And you work with it, you compost it. And as it composts, one of the things with compost is you go out there with a pitchfork and you turn the compost, you put it in the sun, you let the sun cook it a little bit. And then it transforms into this deep, dark soil. It provides this ground that something great can grow in. But when we don't compost something, it just stays stuck in us. It stays stuck, as Lucas wrote, as a trauma. It stays stuck. It's like this gripping in my belly that's just there. To compost it is to breathe into it, to feel into it, to sit with it, to open to it, to cook it a little bit, to turn it over a couple times and see. Like if you ever compost the seed from like an avocado, like that thing's got to cook for a long time before it eventually breaks down. So some things are very hard. They take a lot of patience, openness, and willingness. And other things, like grass, it can compost real quickly. And so, but it can be helpful to turn them over a couple times and look at it from a different angle, a different direction. Say, well, what is this really about? Like in the case of fear, do I really need to fear this person who challenged my politics? Do I need to fear the in-laws? Do I need to fear? I had a fun one where I told the story a bunch, but when I was a young kid, I was in Buffalo, New York, and I was walking to go see the Jerry Garcia band, and I had long dreadlocks. I was filthy and probably some big hippie beard. And there was some lady walking in front of me, and she looked back at me. She's terrified. She took off and ran across the street. And I looked back behind me. I was like, "Who's coming?" You know, she was afraid of me. It's what it was. Oh, I cracked myself up, but she was afraid of me. And I was like, "Geez, lady, I'm not going to get you. I'm going to go see Jerry Garcia. I don't want anything to do with you." I don't want anything to do with you. Boy, she clutched her purse and she took off. And again, she thought I was some dangerous person. I was going to go somewhere with that story, but I can't remember. But anyways, sometimes we just get confused. We confuse our own self. And who knows, like maybe someone that looked like me attacked her once upon a time, and I can have a great deal of compassion for that. I shouldn't laugh at that, but I was just laughing that someone thought I was coming to get him. Okay, let's see what Lucas writes. In German, to cope with translates to verkraften, which literally means to turn into power. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Verkraften. Verkraften. Say. That's good. To turn into power. To cope with translates to turn into power. Yeah, that's Tantra. That's beautiful. Yeah, craft is power. Yeah. I used to speak a little bit of German, not tonight though. Okay. Hi, Craig. What are your thoughts and experiences with Tibetan Buddhism? Do you think it is more tantric or Buddhist? Yeah, so I can tell you this. The schools of Buddhism are so rich, and there's so many different ones. The school of Buddhism that I studied, the school of Tibetan Buddhism that I studied, was a tantric path, and it was a mother lineage. So that's the path that I studied in. And I've also studied in what I'll call it like spirit rock Western Buddhism, which I find very dry, very boring. It's like all the mindfulness teachings and this and that, not very tantric. But they seem like two radically different worlds. And, I can remember, because I used to go to both centers. There was like the little Dharma Center in Durango. Again, that was a spirit rock lineage. And then I used to go out to this place called Taramandala. And I used to do some partake in retreats there and study with Lama Tsultrim. It was fully a tantric path. The whole place was like, as soon as you set foot on that soil, there was some trouble going to come your way. Some trouble, some difficulty, some fire, some demons, some wild energies would start coming up out of your unconscious. And it was quite incredible. It's quite incredible to be in that world, to be in that container, and to, it was just all tantras, everything, and everything was included. And so at that center, I loved it because there was, it was like one of the centers, if you showed up at, and you're a young man and you're a young girl, like, there's a good chance someone's going to end up being pregnant. It's just like, a place like that, and it was going to happen on a full moon in a yurt, and it was just a place like that. And Lama Tsogyam used to talk that way. There's like there was a lot of children that were conceived in that place, and it had fire, it had juice, it had intensity. Whereas a lot of retreat centers you go to would be like some great abomination to even have a sexual thought. Like I've been to Christian monastic the monastery Christ in the desert, which is actually like 3 hours south of Taramandala. Totally different feeling there. It's just very strict, very noble, very high Christ consciousness thing. No one's getting naked there and getting jiggy with it. Like that's not happening. But like at Taramandala, there was like my wife worked there for a period of time, and but there's just so much energy there, so much fire. Our relationship was just like a disaster during that time. There's just so much that came up and was brought into the light and healed and hurt and healed and hurt and healed and hurt in so many different ways. And so it's a path that includes everything. Whereas most Buddhism is a path for monks, and it's projected onto onto, in our case, Westerners. And there's all these ideas that you're just wrong for being human. You're wrong. Like you'll never be awake if you're white. You're bad, in every way. You're, it's like real similar to like people's experience with Catholicism. If you're originally bad, the ego's bad, everything is bad about humanity. It's like, my God, that's like a terrible teaching. But in the realm of Tantra, everything is worked with. Everything is worked with. And so, let's see, I feel like my life is, this is from Justine, I feel like my life is unintentionally tantric, which is hard, but I'm starting to embrace it. I had a boyfriend who lived at Taramandala for a long time, told me all about how wild it is. Yeah, I think I remember that fella. I think I met him for a moment. So yeah, life is tantric. Like life is tantric. And the mistake that a lot of the ancient traditions made, they were monastic traditions. They tried their best not to include life, which to me is like a ridiculous way to teach. It's like, let's try not to include life in our teaching, in our experience. Everything's about the absolute. So anyways, there's a question that I'd like to piggyback on. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Hi, Craig. Can you talk about some ways, what's the phone with this, to channel sexual energy aside from having sex? Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be, sexual energy is all about creation. And so any way where you can creatively express your gift is going to be a great way to channel your sexual energy. I don't even like to call it sexual energy. Sexual energy, again, is the energy of creation. It just happens to be filtered through your sexual center. And when it's filtered through that center, it's going to have all kinds of thoughts. And I'm going to say this, this is something I wish someone told me. If you are between the ages of, let's have some fun here, 14 and 35, you should have a ridiculous amount of sexual energy. And that is a sign of biological health, sign of emotional health and vitality, to have all this sexual energy flowing through you. It's a sign that your biology is working correctly. When I was young, I studied a monastic path. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought I was bad. I thought I was dirty. I thought I was a sinner for having these thoughts. I'm not really a sinner. What's a better word? I just thought these thoughts should not be here. They're an obstacle to enlightenment, all this kind of stuff. But when you're young, you are, from a biological perspective, you're supposed to be getting pregnant and reproducing. Like that is what is supposed to happen within, your physical body. Like that's what's supposed to happen. Now, in the Western world, a lot of people wait till they're 35. And it's like, it's a great time financially to have a baby is 35. But biologically, the great time to have a child is when you're 20, 22. Your body is super healthy, it's flexible, it's, it's strong, it's able, all the right hormones and all that stuff. And so if we're in our 20s or 30s, it's like, have lots of sexual energy, that's a good thing. It's a sign of vitality. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. But if you you don't have a good, healthy partner, I don't recommend screwing around with people, because then you will get pregnant. Or some will get pregnant or get something else. But anyways, let's keep it clean here. Channel that energy into action. And good action. Action in alignment with your heart. The way my energy was channeled was my teacher used me as a workhorse. I dug holes and framed buildings and planted trees and shoveled snow, and it's just like that's what I did with a lot of that energy. And I did have kids. I came home, I raised those kids, and I had the energy to do it. So channel it into action, into creation, into art, to cooking, into the spiritual path, into reading lots of books, or dancing, or climbing mountains, or exploring the world. I channeled all mine into spirituality is what I did. Okay. Here's a follow-up question. Hey, Craig, I know you've probably spoken on this topic many times. Do you have any advice on dealing with a breakup and heartbreak? Yeah. Yeah, feel that pain. Feel it deeply. Don't avoid it. And so this is one of the great fears. It's one of the biggest things that helped wake me up was heartbreak. And all of us fear heartbreak. No one wants to be heartbroken. But there's a funny thing that happens when you continue to open to heartbreak. You're going to cry, and you're going to cry, and you're going to cry. But you're going to become stronger and more open and more tender and more compassionate and more sensitive and more loving. And you're going to ask yourself, what do I actually want? And am I worthy of love? And is love out there for me? Is there a place for me here on planet Earth? Is there a seat for me at the table of life? That's what a heartbreak does, is it invites you to ask deep questions, to feel deeply, to experience deeply. When you walk through the tantric doorway of heartbreak, you discover a compassion that has no end. You discover an indestructible essence within you, a place within you that isn't broken, and that loves to love, loves to be loved, and loves to share love, and is love itself. When you keep opening the door of heartbreak, you find a strength that says, I can be alone because I do love myself. I love myself enough to feel what's here, to experience what's here, to honor what's here. I love myself enough to get to know myself in this most tender and vulnerable way. And I love myself enough to go out and to love again. Because I believe in me. I believe that there's a seat for me at the table. I believe I'm worthy of love. And I see how beautiful my heart is, and that this heart wants to share and love with another. Do you have any advice on dealing with breakup and heartache? Spend a lot of time alone and cry, cry, cry. and cry more, and cry more, and open more. And love yourself through it. The beautiful thing about heartbreak is it shows us how attached we are to another and how we want that other person to love us, to do the work for us, to hold us, to nurture us. When that doesn't happen, what a lot of people do is they just quickly go out and try to replace the person. I don't recommend that. I recommend you loving yourself more deeply and fully. You giving yourself the thing that you think is lost. In order to do that, you have to find that thing within you. Find your own completion. Realize your own completion. Yeah, so let heartbreak crush your psyche, your humanity, your attachment, that just crush you. That's what it did with me. But not crush you in a jaded way. Crush all your illusions about love. Like, somehow I've lived however many years now. And my God, I think I've been to 3 weddings. Yeah, I hate weddings. Don't want to go anyways. This summer, I got to go to 2 weddings. And it's one of the things I hate about weddings is it's just, they're so full of so much, excuse my language, it's just there's so much bullshit. There's all this childish hope and projection and neediness and nonsense and rules, and it just all this hubbub about knight in shining armor and princess and all this. The day I get to be a princess, and it's just like all this silliness and this nonsense. All this silliness and this nonsense. What all of us need to have is we need to have a marriage with ourselves, where we love ourselves so deeply, so fully, that we never have a thought of another human being completing us. And once we're married in this way, where we are married to the truth, where we are married to our truth, where we are married to our own heart. But for most people, we're not married to our own hearts. We take our heart and we hold it out and we say, I need you to hold me, love me, see me, need me, want me, desire me, be attracted, always be loyal, all this and that kind of silliness. And then that person will do, let's say, a fair job, an okay job. Maybe they're there 60% of the time, 70%, 80% if they're really good. But then we're dependent upon that. And when they get sick, when they drop the ball, when they die, when they leave us, again, we'll be heartbroken. But basically, we have to find our heart. We have to bring it back home. And most people, they don't want to find their heart and bring it home and inhabit it. They want someone else to love us. Someone else. The question is, can you love you? When you love you fully, and you know you, there's this strength of being inside, this power, this confidence, this fearlessness. That you feel complete and total when you love you. And when you have this type of love, when you marry yourself, then you go out and be in a relationship and you can actually be a real supportive person. You have love to give instead of neediness to give. But not many people follow this path. I encourage us all to be married to God, married to truth, married to our own self. And from this place, you can be an excellent partner. And you can be together with others is out of love, love for life, love of relationship, love of connecting. You don't need the person. You're happy to be with them. And you can still connect to them and be attached to them in a healthy way instead of being attached to them in a needy way. Okay. See a couple questions here. There's another email or two I want to get to. I'm just going to keep going with these, if that's okay. Hi, Craig. I'll keep this short. On Wednesday evenings, meditation, I felt my solar plexus and root open much more profoundly, and it was scary, and my body started shaking, and I was hyperventilating for breath. Okay. So this normally means your kundalini is waking up. I let the past 2 days flow, and the energy seemed very helpful in the solar plexus. Now it's going down to the root very powerfully, and my body is freezing and hyperventilating. I've been trying to work more on my power before I began my root work because I know I have a lot of trauma there. So I'm really overwhelmed right now and not really knowing what to do or what this means. Any advice would be deeply appreciated. Yeah, so basically it sounds like when the body goes into hyperventilation in regards to a spiritual experience, it's often, a couple things. So it could be just like in a real blunt way, your kundalini is waking up, or it's waking up more fully. Another aspect of it is waking up. And or the kundalini is waking up in your solar plexus, or it's waking up in your hara, it's waking up on your root, in your root. And when a chakra first awakens, like sometimes it's just ta-da, it just feels wonderful. And other times, if there's a lot of trauma there, there's a lot of pain, when it wakes up, it's like, oh, it's just like just pissing its pants and just freaking out. And we go into like a total fear response. And I'm laughing because, again, like I've had it all different ways. And so I know this experience. But the thing is what I want you to hear, my friend, is all of this is good. All of this is a sign of spiritual progress. It's a sign of awakening. It's a sign that you're growing, that you're expanding, that your consciousness is inhabiting a place that was once dark or heavy or tight or tense. And this is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Now, from a human mental, like just conceptual or habitual perspective, we think if there's pain here, if there's fear here, this is bad, something's wrong. I'm going to tell you the opposite. This shows that something great is happening in you. And I encourage you to treat the experience the same way a mother, like a pregnant mother, like while she's giving birth, like the contractions and the stretching and the intensity of that, it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. Is it uncomfortable? It's like, hell yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's like, oh my God. And am I shaking? And am I nervous? Am I crying? And so the thing that I encourage is just to allow your emotions just to do whatever they want to do. Just allow them to cry, to laugh, to scream, to moan. Like there's times when, I have chakra centers opening up and I'll just lay there, I'll be moaning, just be, oh, man, oh. It's like, what the hell's going on over there? And it's like something is coming online. And chakras, like we have this idea that like, say, like kundalini wakes up once or a chakra wakes up once. Like a chakra can wake up like 20 times or 100 times. I'm more likely to open, 10 to probably 40 times. But each time it opens up bigger in a more expansive way, in a huger way, in a more intense way, or new level of light, or emptiness, or expansion, or power, brilliance, or freedom will begin to flow through that center. And so sometimes the physical body will go into a response of hyperventilating. And if that's the case, just let it do that. Let it do that. What's helpful is if you go with the breath, like you said, you just go with the flow. And that's where like say, for example, like some of these breaths that people teach, like the rebirthing breath, the holotropic breath, transformational breath work. These are all like Western pranayamas. Wim Hof method, like a lot of this is one of the ways that the body has coped with overwhelming fear. It's just going into this state. That's like a pranayama breathing. And it helps to soothe and it helps to move energy. It helps it to flow. And it sends a lot of oxygen through the nervous system. It can be very helpful. Sometimes different pranayamas will come through the system and will start spontaneously manifesting. Again, I wouldn't fear any of it. I would be smiling and at the same time say, wow, like this is really wild. This is crazy. This is bizarre. And if you need to have a good cry, it's like, and you cry and say, wow, and cry and wow, and cry and wow, and let the body shake and tremble and sweat and like all kinds of things will come. And so like I've had real bizarre ones. I've said this story a bunch, but like when I was at Ramana ashram, up on the hill is Skanda ashram, and I sat in Skanda ashram. It's a little cave up above on Mount Arunachala, and I sat where Ramana sat and meditated, and my throat chakra started to open. It felt like a billiards ball was just like coming out of my throat, and I was like gagging, and my throat felt like it was stretching, and it hurt like so bad for like days and days. It hurt like it's like I was going to give birth to this ball of light just like coming out of my mouth. It was like, what the heck? But again, like I don't ever think too much about it. I'm more just impressed by like the wildness and the intensity and the light and the physicality of it. By impressed, I mean like I give my full attention to it without thinking about it in a fearful way. Now, there was another question. I'm just going to roll into the next question, and we'll stay with you though here. Dear Craig, the pressure I endure has grown recently to such a level it hurts me all the time. I'm afraid to have an injury and to die. Is it possible this happens? No. We are opening to light. And so if there's pressure, if there's intensity, is it going to injure me? And am I going to die? No, absolutely not. People do not die from spiritual experiences. Like that's, like, so whenever we have a fear, like if we look at fear directly and honestly, we look at fear primally, it's basically all fear can be reduced down to, I'm afraid I'm going to die here. That this thing is going to kill me. And for the next person who asks this question, it's like, no, like it's not going to kill me. Is pressure going to kill us? No. Like, are you being crushed by a boulder? That will kill you. But being crushed by light, that's called transfiguration. It means something great is coming. Like this is light, it's heat, it's fire, it's consciousness is coming online. And so, a human question would be like, well, why does it hurt? A question for you is like, why do you equate hurting with something is bad or something is wrong? Like I work out, like working out, it hurts. It hurts, but you don't get a body like this. I'm sorry, couldn't help myself. I'm sorry. Unless you get up every day at 5 a.m. working out. I'm sorry. It's like we do things in life that hurt, but then we expand, we grow, we become stronger, wiser, deeper, more full, more brilliant. Like a lot of things in life are hard. A lot of things are really difficult. Again, I love the metaphor of birth. My children were all born at home in an inflatable swimming pool. The other one, what was the other one? And horse troughs, horse troughs. And like these women have immense strength, immense power that comes online. They're transformed. They're transformed through a pregnancy. They give birth at home. It's like that girl, like they're both girls. They give birth, they become a woman. They become a goddess. A goddess, literally. Literally, you give birth in your house. Like, you become a goddess. Like, there's something incredible. Was it hard? It's like, oh my Lord. There's a reason guys aren't allowed to give birth. It's like we don't have that type of strength. Like we don't have it with women. It's like the goddess comes online. The goddess comes online. And so there's pressure, there's heat, there's light. It's not to kill you. It's here to transfigure you. Yes, Jesus, like, was it hard? It's like, hell yeah, it was hard. Ridiculously hard. It pushed him beyond just being some, let's say random Jewish rabbi, into knowing himself as the Son of God. It's a huge transformation. Know himself as light. Know himself as a divine master. Yeah, and so these things that are happening in our body, they can be physical, they can hurt, we can shake, we can tremble. I can remember the first time I went and just did breath work with, I went and had a breath work session. I was wearing a sweater, 2 shirts underneath, a pair of jeans. It's like, I sweat through everything. I sweat through jeans and a sweater. It's like, I don't know what happened. I did this breath work, all my chakras opened, and like, I looked like a heroin junkie. He was like coming down, having withdrawals. Like it was like there was a pool of sweat, just from shaking, from trembling, from hyperventilating, and I went outside the freezing cold. I was like, oh my God, now I'm going to die because it's like negative 12 degrees outside where I was at, and it's like the coldest day of winter, and so. Like when we open spiritually, sometimes it is very intense. But you said the right thing, my friend. You said, I'm just going to go with the flow. I went with the flow. You let energy move. Like that's a basic thing. Like what's the advice? Let energy flow. Let it flow. So how does that happen? You trust in your experience. You don't think about it. You don't try to control it. You don't fear it. You don't let your mind spin that there's something is wrong, or this is going to kill me, or this is a mistake. God is punishing me. No. We don't go any of that. None of that. We stay with the basic truth here. Energy wants to flow. And so we can investigate, like with the second questioner, often their energy gets stuck in their head. So energy gets stuck in the head primarily because of one reason, and it's that we're critical. Like we have a strong critic and we have a strong controlling nature. That tends to be why energy gets stuck in the head. So we have to be willing to surrender that. When we surrender that, energy will flow. And it'll feel much better. Instead of pressure, it'll probably feel like bliss. With solar plexus, let me feel on the solar plexus for a moment. It was scary. So within our solar plexus, within our root, within our heart, that whole center, this is where fear lives. And so what I want you to imagine is when you open to a center where fear lives, you're going to experience a lot of fear. And I want you to imagine that fear is coming forward to be released. And I want you to have a sense of, if you just breathe into that center and you're opening to it, and lots of fearful thoughts and imagery comes forward, and shaking, primal feelings of fear, existential fear, death and annihilation, all that kind of fun stuff. You just let it flow, you let it run, you let it empty. But if you have like a little mantra in your head, like whatever I'm feeling, I'm healing, like a little mantra like this, then you just have this sense of like, oh, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's coming. But if the mantra in our head is, if it feels bad, it is bad. If it feels bad, something has gone wrong. What that does is it closes your throat chakra, it closes your nervous system, it puts your body into a state of fear. Then your body, like your nervous system and your emotional nature, is fighting and resisting something that's trying to liberate, trying to release. And instead of that happening, I want you to imagine jumping in a river and you let the river carry you. So you jump in the river of fear and you let it carry you. Carry you. You let it carry you. And if you've ever experienced fear directly, like if you jump into fear, if you jump into any emotion and join with it directly, it'll feel like you're in a raging river that's flowing in a certain direction. And there actually will be no thoughts there. There'll just be this huge movement of energy. So I'm inviting you to join with the fear. If you look at it from the outside and judge it that it shouldn't be here, it's like 10 times worse. But if you jump into the fear, what fear does is fear transmutes into the energy of excitement. And in the root chakra, fear transforms into the energy of excitement as the form of life. And by life, I mean all of life. All the life that makes up the universe. So it's like this immense flow of prana that is so happy to be alive and to be expressive and to be here and to be creating and to be living. So it's the energy basically of radiance, when you join with fear 100%. But again, if you stand back and you're like a spirit rock Buddhist and I'm sorry, I'm picking on those guys. If you're a spirit rock Buddhist and you're just looking at fear and witnessing it from far away, it's going to suck. You'll be like, I'm witnessing fear. And that's going to make you want to pee your pants and you'll be terrified of it. But instead of witnessing, if you jump into it and join, become one with it. Like the energy of fear in the root transmutes into primal radiance. Basically like the explosion of the Big Bang and the manifestation of the Big Bang just through in and throughout creation. It's incredible. It's an incredible experience, and there's incredible freedom there. And it's it's wondrous. You feel so alive, like you feel alive almost like a madman, just like just so full of life and energy and brilliance and just explosive energy. And so I encourage you to jump into it, to join with it. It's like being ripped open in every direction, having no boundaries, no ground. Again, it's wondrous. If we stay on the edge of it, terrifying. I'm going to die. This thing's going to kill me. And keep in mind, there is something that will die if you keep opening. And the thing that's going to die is your fear of fear. The thing that's going to die is the controlling one. The thing that's going to die is your sense of separation. People have all these silly ideas about ego annihilation, ego death, and all this stuff. It's like the only thing that dies is stuff that's false, things that you don't want. That's what dies. And this death is happening throughout the entirety of our life. Like none of us, I hope none of us have our 6th grade self anymore. Like that thing died. It's a good thing that guy died. That one died. Like we don't want that one anymore. Those are awkward, bizarre consciousness. Like, the thing died. And now there's something greater here. The only way we get to fearlessness is through jumping into the fear and becoming one with it. And seeing, like you have to be a little bit crazy. You have to be a little bit like a madman. What's going to happen? What will happen? Will this thing kill me? Will it kill me? My mind thinks it's going to kill me. But what if I don't listen to my mind? What if I just open this door to the jack-in-the-box, the boogeyman, the existential fear or dread, and see what comes? And for many of us, that thing will come, and it might throw fangs and spit fire at us, and all kinds of silliness for a day, a month, a year. For me, it was at least a year and a half. Just primal terror. And then it slowly begins to break and open, and then it's primal life force, primal radiance, primal expansion. It's so exquisite. You got to be kind of crazy. By crazy, I mean you have to do what is opposite of what the ego thinks. Okay. I better get to Megan. Megan's been waiting patiently. Megan, are you here?
Hi, Craig.
Hi, Megan.
So you just answered most of my question, I think, with the existential fear thing. But I was wondering, when you were in that year and a half of existential fear, how did you actually make decisions? Because I'm trying to make a major life decision right now and going through a big transition, like externally, trying to figure out if I'm going to go to grad school or not. And I just have this existential fear. And
you ask your heart. So if you ask your heart, does your heart want to go to graduate school?
My heart doesn't want to do much of anything.
Your heart doesn't want to do anything? Okay, so let me ask you, is that your true heart, like your spiritual heart, or is that your emotional heart? Because there's a difference.
I'm not actually sure what my true heart wants.
Yeah. So that's how you make a decision, is you find your true heart and you ask your heart to lead you. But let's play with this one. So you said, let's just go with what you said. You said your heart doesn't want to do anything. Okay, why not? Like, what's going on in your heart that it doesn't want to do anything?
There's just a bunch of fear. Like I'm just living with existential fear all the time.
So that's your emotional heart. And so your emotional heart may be telling you like, hey, I'm a little bit frozen now and I need time and I need space. And if you ask it like more specifically what it needs, what does your emotional heart need?
It needs to know that I'm going to be safe in whatever transition I make.
Yeah. It wants to know that you're going to be safe. Whatever transition you make, how about let's say it wants to know that you're going to be safe in general. And so anything you can do to help your body feel safe is going to be healing. So your body's telling you, I need some type of safe container. I need to be connected with a felt sense of safety. And so anything you can do to support that, that's one, it's going to be healing. And then two, you'll have clarity. So you're not going to have clarity until safety comes fully online. Now, there's relative safety and there's absolute safety. So relative safety, like often is, let me see if I can say that a little differently. Let me just ask you, like, you have a good home and a good place to live and everything's taken care of for the most part?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we want to remind your body that, like, hey, everything's okay. Everything's okay. I have a good, quiet home, a place to lay my head at night, there's food in the refrigerator. And so sometimes we have to remind our body, like, hey, it's okay. Like, we're safe. We're in a good place and we're safe. And I encourage you to hold your body, like literally, hand on your heart, hand on your belly, and just reminding it and reconnecting it to a felt sense of safety. Because sometimes when we open to these spiritual experiences or just open to life, we get like, ah. And so like when that was happening, I held my body. And I didn't hold my body for 1.5 years. I held my body for like 5 years. It's like, I love you, and it's okay. I love you, and it's okay. Like 10 million times. Like the mantra I've said the most in my life is, I love you, and it's okay. I love you, and it's okay. Helping this nervous system to calm down. To calm down. I've said all kinds of other mantras. J-man, JJ-man, all kinds of these kind of mantras, skanda mantra, all kinds of mantras. But primary mantra that your nervous system needs is, I love you and it's okay. And you're helping it to calm down. You're connecting it to a sense of peace. Now, our mind sometimes makes things a lot worse. Like, how old are you?
25.
25. So I want you to imagine you could probably go to graduate school anytime in the next, let's have some fun, 50 years. Okay. But our mind, when we're 25, we think, I got to make this decision right now. It has to happen next semester. It's like, it doesn't have next semester. But, you go to graduate school when you're 26, you're 32, you're 45. Like a lot of people, I didn't go to graduate school when I was 25. I can't remember how old I was, but it was a little bit later on down the pike. And it's like, okay, it's like, all right, now things settle down in my life, I go to graduate school. And so sometimes we think it has to happen, but your body may say, no, like I need a little time, I need a little space, and a little peace. Now, what do you want to go to graduate school for?
Counseling.
Counseling, yeah. And so I'm glad I asked that, because sometimes, like with something like a counseling degree where you're studying psychology, if you ask your heart, if you help yourself feel really safe and really peaceful, and you ask your heart may say, we should go right now. Not because I need to hurry up and get done with graduate school and move on with my life. But our heart might say, like, hey, you should go because this will be so good for you right now. It'll be good for you right now. And that's like what my graduate school was. It was like, it wasn't so much on the like Freudian, philosophy or whatever, Freudian theory, excuse me. It was experiential learning. So basically we learned how to sit with pain and fear and hope and sadness and heartache. We did a lot of, counseling with each other. And it was like, my God, that was so healing, so supportive. And I was a mess when I started the school. Like I was just like all over the place emotionally, and all kinds of drama and confusion in my life. And taking on graduate school was a tremendous stress, but then it quickly became a stress reliever. Because it's like, oh, here's a place where I can process so much of the chaos and the confusion in my life. And so I'm not telling you should go. I'm not telling you should go now. I'm telling you, I want you to listen to your heart and let your heart speak to you, telling you what the truth is. What the truth is. And in order for that to happen, the first thing your body needs, it needs to be connected to a sense of safety. Now, sometimes if you're just really quiet and get into a meditative state, the fear might be screaming, you might be breathing into the fear, and the voice might come forward in the voice of truth, and it might say, not now, or this will be good for you. And what you'll see is, like, if you really listen, it'll come with a quiet sanity. It won't come with emotion. It won't come with an emotion of fear, like, not now, don't do it now. Like, that's a voice of fear. And it won't come with excitement, like, oh yeah, I should do this. I need to do this. It's not that. It'll come with just like this quiet truth. Sometimes we'll come forward just like, not now. Or it'd be good. It'd be good to do that. It'd be good. And at first you might join, you might be like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. But then, you give it a couple of weeks or months, you might see, oh yeah, it was true for me to go right now. It was true for me to go. And so I encourage you just to continue sitting and opening and let the truth reveal itself. The way we support the truth is by comforting the body in any and all ways we can. It's whether that's a bubble bath, whether it's time in nature, whether it's massage or body work, coming here, going on retreats, time in silence, lots of time in bed, just holding yourself, whatever it is, and you'll find the truth will present itself. And the beautiful thing about, university graduate schools, like, there's always next semester. Like, it's not a one chance type of thing. It's these programs. I mean, a lot of them, they've been going on for 40 years, 50 years, and they're going to continue to do that. They're not, this isn't the last chance. They just keep offering a new one every semester or every year or whatever it is. And so, and the other thing is, I'll say one last thing, is just let God guide you. Call upon the Divine Mother, ask her to speak through you, see if she'll give you a sign. And sometimes, we hear the voice within us, but sometimes we hear it in a heavenly way, or it just shows up on our doorstep or one form or another. So anyways, my heart's with you, Megan. Much love. Yeah. Okay. I see I went way over, and I'll cut you all loose. Hopefully I'll see y'all Wednesday night. Be prepared that the energies of the retreat are going to start to come. So probably come in Wednesday night, and be prepared for a challenge. A lot of times we sign up for a retreat and God gives us a little challenge, see if we're really going to show up or not. And that tends to be a common thing. And also listen and see, like, you may have said, oh, I don't want to go on the retreat. But a day before the retreat, you might get a big yes. And I encourage you, if you hear something like that, you follow the truth. You follow the truth. And so much love to each of you. Good night, everyone. See y'all soon.